Adam Aron. Here's a quick, who is he? What does he do? What's going on? Adam Aron apparently runs AMC. AMC is what Wall Street likes to call the meme stock because those Wall Street bets people are all in it and the price reflects it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the AMC guy.
To all the apes out there, welcome back to Trey's Trades. Coming out here again to give you guys the second interview for Adam Aron. Adam, it's a pleasure to have you here back again to speak with me and the rest of the apes who are here. Join together for the culture of AMC stock. Hope you're having yourself a good evening.
Hello, Trey. Hello to all your subscribers who are watching this live or who might watch later on. It's really an honor and a privilege for me to be with you.
All right, so right off the bat, he's touching his tie a lot. And he's being very stressed, which is normal. Interviews make people stressful, especially if you're not used to giving them. And I sit there and think, why would this guy get on here to talk to this guy? I guess the simplest explanation is that the apes own so much of AMC that he's literally just doing a shareholder conference. That's what they're doing. So keeping that in mind as we go through, what do you do in a shareholders conference? You want to project strength. Don't leave. Don't sell off. That makes sense. You don't want to give your shareholders bad news. And if there's anything that comes out that may be bad news, you want to butter over it. So with that in mind, now we can watch.
And to be with the people who follow you so closely.
I appreciate that immensely. So we're not going to waste too much of your time. We're just going to dig right into these questions. So we're going to throw you some hard balls here right off the bat. I want to talk about the 8.5 million shares that were sold to Mudrick. So there's some speculation coming from the ape community, the retail investors out there, that the sale that took place with Mudrick was, it's a little bit shady, not in terms of what AMC did, but how they sold it and the way they got out of the stock. So they sold it immediately the next week on Monday, and then followed that up with a statement with, being AMC is overvalued. Do you have anything to speak on about that? Because there's just a little bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in terms of the way that whole transaction took place.
Sure, I've got a lot to say about that. And the way you phrase the question.
So I've got a lot to say about that. And he looks out the window and he actually settles in. This pretty much represents the mind contemplating how it's going to deliver information. That's all it's doing. It's not being shady at this point. It's just let me look away so I can have a clear head and thought. Okay, I want to go left or I want to go right, and I will explain it this way. And then I'm going to settle in and explain it.
Question, Trey, is the way some of the people in your community, our community, are talking, but it's not actually accurate. So, and there's some nuances here. So the first thing is that Mudrick Capital has been incredibly helpful to AMC. I want to remind you that back in December, when no one would give AMC a dime, Mudrick Capital took a big risk and lent us $100 million, $100 million. And that was the catalyst for our continued capital raising between mid-December and late January that brought in $1.2 billion. And I don't think we would have raised the $1.2 billion if Mudrick hadn't given us the first $100 million. And
okay, so in simple speak, they scratched our back and we're scratching theirs. And be damned with anything else that may hurt someone else financially or their feelings. You see some stress as he explains this, because again, remember, this is like a shareholders meeting. Yes, it kind of screws you guys in whatever way, whether it mentally or keeping them out, I don't know. But I'm explaining it on why and hoping that you accept the explanation. And in that, we're actually seeing some honesty there because he's not constructing it. We don't see the brain movement in a way of deceiving you. We do see the stress in explaining, especially when he goes into the why, which leads me to believe that I need you to understand the why. This is what we did, yes, but this is the why. Please understand the why.
And I don't know that AMC would have been able to avoid bankruptcy court had we not raised that $1.2 billion back then. So let's start at the beginning that Mudrick's been a very good actor here, a very good actor. Second, I don't know exactly what they own today, but I know that they have, I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe they have a couple of $100 million of AMC debt. And they've held this debt for quite some time. Mudrick as a firm has every incentive for AMC to thrive and prosper. That's kind of the second thought. The third thought, I can confirm that we sold Mudrick 8.5 million shares. And I can confirm that we did it at a price of $27.12 a share, and that it brought in $239 million of cash. What they did with their shares is their business, not our business. We sold shares to them in good faith. They can do what any shareholder can do. They can hold them, they can sell them. That's their decision, not ours. So I can't confirm exactly what they did. I can't confirm the timing of what they did. I do know that some of the estimates out there about how much money they might have made in the buying shares and selling shares are inaccurate reports.
So we're seeing, again, a lot of stress as he talks about this share transfer. Now, he's explained it to you why, and he's given you his belief, and you see a lot of stress. So we're not actually seeing, a hard factoid or a hard deception. We're getting a belief on what he believes. And he's extremely stressed about it. And I'm sure the implications are if he decides to dump this on the market, they could drive that price down really quickly. But then again, he goes, I believe that they want us to survive and thrive.
Next question.
All right. I like the piece of that you said there wasn't any hard proof stating that they actually made that statement. So I think that's a good thing to get out there, that there wasn't any hard documentation. But the next question that I've got for you is regarding the 11.5 million shares that were sold today. Now, this is just raised some concerns for a lot of the investors. Now, there was the first interview here, we talked about how AMC had, 46-ish thousand shares total remaining after they'd issued those 43 million shares, offering into the market and raise a great sum of cash. So there's a sentiment right now passing along with the retail investor group, the apes, that they feel a little bit betrayed. They feel like the management was hiding something that was behind closed doors and we just didn't get to see it. Now, there's probably some sort of explanation for this, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. But where did these shares come from for this 11.5 million shares that you sold into the market for Mudrick Capital for those 8.5 million shares? And are there any shares remaining that we should expect for the future so we can make better investment decisions for ourselves?
Sure thing. And Trey, that's one of the reasons I came on with you today.
All right, now we've gone into salesman. I sit there as he's asking this question. I was watching him, and he kind of shifts, and then he leans back in the chair, and he leans even further back, which pretty much denotes, because we're not seeing stress anywhere in the face in that sense. He's just relaxing and relaxing and relaxing and getting more and more comfortable as this question is read out. It's like, okay, so this doesn't actually give him stress. And then as he finishes up the question, he sits forward, kind of settles himself in, puts his arms in front of him, and it just, salesman. Okay, so the salesman's coming out. And what does the salesman have to say?
Is to make sure that we get the straight scoop out in front of all of the people who are shareholders of our company. Back when we said that we had 43 million shares available for sale, you will also recall that was before the May 4 shareholder meeting that was postponed. One of the items that was up for shareholder vote at the May 4 meeting was to put 20 million AMC shares into what's called the Management Equity Incentive Plan. Those shares would be essentially given to the management of the company.
Saw a little bit of a tick there as he goes into, one of those votes. It's like a tick. You got a tick. They come out more when you are stressed. So the more stress you have, the more likely you are to have a tick. Or it just could be that he's so tight that he's trying to loosen up. But at this moment, it looked like it came out as a tick.
Given, I might add, for free to the management of the company.
Right.
The management team of the company cares so much about the company that we decided that rather than us taking those 20 million shares and those 20 million shares working for the benefit of officers of AMC, that we ought to use those shares a different way. We ought to use those shares to strengthen the company, the company that all of your followers are invested in. And so if you look at a press release that we put out just about an hour ago with the new proxy for the new July 29 shareholder meeting.
So we're seeing a lot of portrayal. And we noticed when he went into this question, he went into his salesman pitch. We're not really seeing deception. Portrayal in and of itself is not deception. He's trying to sell you the explanation he's giving you. It's very valuable to have portrayal as a very good way of communicating with people in a salesman pitch, because the only way to really deceive in that is to lie by omittance. And then the question would be, in this answer that he's giving, what is he omitting?
You will see that there are 0 shares being allocated to the management of the company. Those 20 million shares that were going to go into my pocket and the pockets of other managers and executives of the company, we decided instead that they should be used for the company's benefit, not for our personal benefit. So though, if you look at the proxy that went out a few minutes ago, we are not making any request of the shareholders to put any shares in the management equity incentive plan. That essentially, those 20 million shares that were going to go to us personally for our own money, that freed those 20 million shares up, and we sold those 20 million shares, 8.5 million earlier over the last week to Mudrick, and 11.5 million today. And between those two transactions, we raised over $800 million of cash, not to line my pocket or anybody who works at AMC.
And we're also now, as he gets more and more comfortable in this, the portrayal is starting to die down, especially when he goes into the narrative of it didn't go into his pocket. These shares did not go to individuals. His body sings with that. Okay, again, remember, what is the omittance? And I would say the omittance at the moment is, well, what is the plan? And I guess you wouldn't really want to make that public if you're fighting off wolves.
But to put that money in the treasury of AMC, to strengthen AMC, let AMC do more good things, to grow our company, that's where the 20 million shares came from. We all know what we did with them. We put them into the market. We brought in over 8.
He's speaking with his fists, but his body is singing with him. And you see him adjusting, but he's adjusting closer and closer to the camera. So we have truth, but we have a closeness. Remember that thing I said about omittance? Well, what is the omittance? It's in that fist. And at this point, I wouldn't really even call it deception. It's just a plan. There's something in that fist that is kept from you. I personally don't think this guy is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I do think he's a businessman.
There's another point I'd like to make. And it's a very important point because it goes to this whole issue of dilution. I believe amongst some AMC shareholders, there is a fear, you use the phrase FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Right.
There's a fear that just the mere fact of issuing shares is a bad thing for a company. There's another very strongly held view. And it's the view that I hold and that many other AMC shareholders have, including many of your apes. And that is, let's look at the facts. Back in December and January.
I'll pause it right there. I was kind of hoping he would wrap it up because to see him as he goes into this next point that he really wants to make, he closes his eyes. Like he doesn't really want to face this. This is something that he's going to tell you that's giving him a lot of stress in giving you this information. And I want you to understand that I'm starting to see that he is talking to shareholders that he does not believe that they have the understanding to accept why the company does the things that it does. Now remember, I said that I don't believe him to be a wolf in sheep's clothing, but I do believe him to be a businessman. I hope you understand the difference in that, because technically all businessmen are wolves. It's the ones that dress up as sheep to lure people in to get them that we don't like. So he's tiptoeing around you because he's used to dealing with wolves and he's looking at all of you as sheep. But he's being very polite about it, and he's trying to explain the knowledge to turn you into businessmen, which is actually a commendable thing. But again, remember, he's a businessman.
The press was absolutely convinced that AMC was going to fail. We issued 250 million shares and sold them into the market. And we brought in, as you know, from that effort, about $800 million cash. That also triggered us being able to borrow another $400 million of cash. That made AMC so much stronger. That single act of diluting shares saved the company and made the company a stronger company. The share price when that was done was between $3 and $7 a share. Now let's fast forward. We put out some more shares that we announced on May 13th. And we announced with a sale of 43 million shares, which we raised at an average price of $9, which we sold.
So as he's speaking, he brings up these shares. You see him adjusting himself quite a bit. And put out more shares. And we see a lot of wiggling. There's that stress. Now the context being, again, this is a businessman. He's trying to educate you to be businessmen. And now we're seeing a trend in this interview by itself that he's trying to educate you into the businessman's world. Their thinking, their tactics, and the why. Which automatically makes me personally think, this is actually a good guy. I have to remember he's a businessman, but he's trying to help me.
And it's our view that that we're strengthening the company and we're not hurting the company. Now, you asked me a question, how many shares do we have left? And we made a public comment to that point this afternoon in a press release. We're done. We're out. There's no more left. Now, when I say there's no more left, I want to be technical. There are 46,000 shares left. 46,000.
He's so excited about that. I don't know why, but he's so excited. Oh, it got him smiling all over it. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. His body's singing with him. As he goes into this, his body is singing with him. And as he finishes up.
Remember, this is a company that's issued over 400 million shares over the last year. So if anybody wants to take comfort in the fact that there are no more shares coming, unless the shareholders approve us doing something else, they can take comfort.
Now you see his hands now? Remember that plan that was in his fist for all those times? The plan, that stress, something that's omitted that we do not understand or have knowledge of. Now as he's talking about these shares, his hands are open to you. There's nothing more coming out. Unless, something happens and they make a plan, but he's open with that. As far as he is concerned, they're done. He's being honest with you in this.
In that, I would actually tell you, if I were a shareholder, I would be more concerned that we don't have shares available to us, because I think shares are a very powerful tool to do good things for a company. Look at the $1.6 billion of cash that we brought into AMC between January and May by using shares. That's very good for AMC. That strengthens AMC. That helps.
Okay, now we have a stiff hand. So he's talking about this money that he's brought in. We have one hand that is really open and out there, and another hand that is just cupped and it wants to close, but it's holding. So we're holding on to something. It's open. He's told you everything, so it's not really hidden. Whatever it is not hidden, but it would be controlled. And the other hand is free. It kind of makes me sit there and think, and this is just my theory, that money in the shares that they raised was allocated to something. So it's not really a free money. And the other money that they raised is free money to do. That's just my theory on why he's holding something.
Make sure that our long-term future is very bright. And right now, we don't have that.
It's okay. His wife has his pants.
We don't have that tool at our disposal because we've used up all of but 46,000 shares that have been authorized by the shareholders. And they were authorized by the shareholders back in 2012. It took us 9 years to use those shares. I want to make sure I don't steamroll you, and I want to make sure you ask me more questions.
No worries.
All the questions you have, but I want to make sure everybody knows that we can't do any more shares unless the shareholders approve, and that's just it. I mean, those are straight facts, and I'm going to make the case probably later in this call in response to one of your questions that the shareholders should authorize more shares, because this could be a very valuable tool to build this company going forward and grow this company going forward. But let's save that for the next question.
All right, before we move on to the next question, I just want to circle back to one clarification point because I thought it was pretty interesting. It was the piece where you were saying that the equity incentive plan, right, for the management. So those 20 million shares, whether or not you decided to sell them, into the market for the company or to give them to the management, either way, those 20 million shares would have been, essentially added to the overall shares outstanding.
That's correct.
All right, that's good to know.
But instead, they're not going to the 100 people in the company who normally get those shares. They were used this week for the benefit of all of our shareholders.
All right, got it.
We raised a lot of money that we just put in the bank.
Perfect. I think that's obviously a great way to use those shares if they're going to be used either way, for the benefit of everybody. So that's a good, great clarification point, and I'm glad that you doubled down on.
I sat there and wanted to watch that through. So he's talking about how these shares were used, and there's what it is. Remember what we've been talking about. Something is there, and he cups it and points his fingers out. It's like whatever it is inside his hand. So it's like, what is it in there? What are the details we don't know? That's the only part that really bothers me. And all I can really think of, because he's been so honest and open as far as trying to explain business to everyone, is that it's something that he doesn't think you'd quite understand yet. Or maybe it's something that he doesn't want his competitors to know. I don't know.
On that. So we can move into the next question here really quick. I want to talk about that 25 million share vote. Now, it was obviously stated by AMC, like you just kind of alluded to here today in a press release, that you're requesting a 25 million share authorization for, I'm assuming it would be 2022. So I guess the big clarification points that I have is, if this is approved, will a single one of these shares be used in 2021? And what sort of plans would you have for these 25 million shares, so that we would want to vote yes on this authorization?
Well, let's start with they absolutely cannot be used in calendar year 2021. That's just, again, we wrote that into the plan. So no one even has to take my word for it. It's not even possible.
Right.
Second, you said that we would use those shares in 2022. What we would say is we wouldn't use those shares before 2022. But that doesn't mean we will use all those shares in 2022. We could, but that doesn't mean we will. The last time the shareholders authorized shares for this company was 9 years ago. It took us 9 years to use up all those shares. And looking ahead, if the shareholders approve this new 25 million share tranche, theoretically, we could use them quickly in 2022, or we could use them spread out over a long period of time. We would only use them if there are really good opportunities for AMC. So let's talk about what's...
That hand pops up, and I've been watching it as he speaks about this. It's still in that, he's holding on to something. Even as he speaks about this, these shares that he would like to have, there's something in that hand. But we're not seeing the language that goes with it that says, I'm going to stab you all in the back. He's giving you history lesson. It took us 9 years to use all these shares up. Yeah, we're going to use some shares, but not all of them. And that body language sings with him. So it's like that, whatever is in that hand is driving me nuts. It's like, I wish this guy would ask a question with all the research he's done that will at least peek into whatever is in that hand. And you'll know it because it'll come out closed and that, like he's holding something. And as soon as he has to admit whatever it is that's in that hand, it'll just fall open.
Some of those opportunities might be. God forbid this COVID virus comes back and puts us all on our keisters. I want to say, I don't mean AMC, I mean like the country and the world.
Yeah, tracking.
If disaster comes back, we'll all be glad that we had this authorization sitting out there to be used. Hopefully that's not the case. So why don't we kind of take that one off the table, because it sounds such...
And we're starting to see it. So as he's talking about this, remember that cup, his hand is still stiff, but his fingers are splaying. So it's like it's starting to fall open. Apparently one of the fears is another disaster that puts the company in financial straits again.
It's bad karma to think COVID-19 would come back, or there'd be the invention of COVID-20 or God only knows what. But let's look at some of the other good things we could do.
I found that kind of interesting. So as he sits there and talks about this, or God only knows what, and he folds his arms into it like, oh, I don't actually think they could survive another one. And I say that because of how tight he got at the end of this. God forbid something else. And that's not my theory on it. That's his body language saying, I don't think they can survive another one.
There are movie theater circuits out there that did go into bankruptcy. There are movie theater circuits that are faltering, that are failing. There are theaters that are otherwise very powerful theaters that gross a lot of money in normal times that are now up for grabs. And we specifically mentioned theaters that were leased or owned by ArcLight and Pacific Theaters in mostly in Southern California and a little bit around the country. Those theaters are now all closed. Landlords are looking for new tenants for those theaters. We're going to chase those theaters hard. Some of them, one of them that I can think of, was the third most visited movie theater in all of Los Angeles in the years 2017 and 2018. Wouldn't that be a great theater to add to AMC as just an example? So we can also use the $800 million we just raised and whatever we might be able to raise in 2022 and 2023 or beyond. Maybe there's another movie theater company we can buy. Maybe there's a great acquisition opportunity for us outside of pure play movie theaters that would allow us to vertically integrate and create real value for AMC shareholders. If you arm us with the tool, meaning stock is a tool, if you arm us with the tool to go find value creating opportunities for AMC shareholders, we can do that. If we're not armed with this tool, then you're tying our hands behind our back and you'll make it just that much harder for us to land some of these attractive opportunities that benefit us all. Now, we also know from the May 4 meeting that there was a lot of concern being expressed by our shareholders about the size of the equity ask. Remember, we asked for 500 million shares.
Right.
And the timing. There was no discussion as to timing. And some out there thought, oh my goodness, they're going to put 500 million shares into the market tomorrow, which scared a few people. And we were trying to say, no. The last time the company authorized 100 million shares, it lasted for almost a decade. So we scrapped that meeting specifically because our management team, we were listening to our shareholders and we were changing our plans so as to mesh our thinking with the thinking of our company's owners, which is...
Okay, here we've gone tight again as he talks about his plans with his hand. Yeah, that hand is his little golden boy. He's only brought it out once, relaxed.
You stated, the possibility of a merger or an acquisition with different movie theater chains. And I suppose I'd like you to expand a little bit on maybe some that you're able to, talk about, some of the opportunities that are presenting themselves to you. Because this has been a conversation that the apes have had, more than once about the potential of, AMC either A, being acquired or B, acquiring other companies to improve the strength of them and scare away short positions from the stock in the short term and the long term. Is there anything that you're able to speak on for that?
Sure. So think of it this way. The stronger AMC is as a company, the more people who bet against the company should be concerned. I'm disconnecting that from our share price. I'm not saying at the share price on January 15 or February 15 or March 15 or June 15, just in general, not talking about trading activity, just in general. The stronger a company is, kind of by definition, the stronger a company is. And we've raised billions of dollars over the past 10 months. And we have almost...
We semi-saw that display. The mind went there. It didn't come out of the mouth, but the mind went there. That hand came out and then it opened. And he's sitting there talking about strength of company. And based on what he said previous, as we watch things semi-relax, thinking it was debt-based, it may be just that. And I actually would say a big maybe that they're looking to acquire a particular company.
I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, Fero. Firo is one of the few cryptocurrency projects that I respect. Unlike most other cryptocurrencies, Firo is focused on safeguarding your financial privacy without compromising on trustlessness, which means no third parties are required, and transactions are private by default. Firo also has an exciting roadmap to look forward to. Features such as Instant Send, where payments can both be sent and confirmed within seconds. There's also Elysium, which adds tokenization functionality similar to Ethereum, but it also enables these assets to enjoy Firo's privacy technology. There's many more things on the roadmap, and if you'd like to learn more, head over to firo.org. If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers, where Mandy teaches more about her techniques of deception detection. There's also other content such as the Crime series and Interesting Minds series, available to both Gold and Silver subscribers.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.